The land of severed hands, lizard people, and mysterious monsters. All in one place and at once. What is this? This is Congo, but it doesn't kill quickly, not at once. It drinks your life drop by drop. It sucks your soul through the leaves of trees where colonizers hang their victims for disobedience. It clings to your clothes with the dried hands of thousands of severed arms. It is ready to trample you with giant monsters. Their bodies hide in the jungles, waiting for the right moment to strike and finish you off forever. And all of this is watched with icy indifference by the reptile people. You know, you will be scared, yet intrigued. And at the end of the video, the main mystery. Why is the world so afraid to look into the eyes of this place? A place where perhaps the darkest future of our planet is reflected. Are you ready? Then, let's go full pancake. The cold blood of the Congo reptile people tribe began to reveal itself to the world after gaining independence. Missionaries, scientists, and explorers flooded into the country. Much of what they encountered in the uncharted lands left them in a state of shock. You will surely agree with me that there's nothing surprising about this, as the country seemed to have been hidden from curious eyes for a long time. And suddenly, unknown tribes, mysterious rivers, dense forests. Some new phenomena? Scientists simply couldn't explain them. One of such mysteries was the Europeans' encounter with the previously unknown Mongo pygmy tribe. About 40 people lived in a high-altitude, hard-to-reach area and had never seen white people. The pygmies were discovered by a scientific expedition led by the French researcher and ethnographer traveler César Gemin. The doctors who were part of the expedition were, to put it mildly, bewildered by the properties of the natives' blood. I would never have believed it, but it actually turned out to be less warm than that of other people. Can you imagine? The Mongo were even called the tribe of reptiles. It turned out that the pygmies, over the years of evolution, they learned to adjust their body temperature to the surrounding environment. The colder the air, the colder their body. They could enter a state similar to hibernation, lowering their body temperature to 24 degrees, slowing down bodily processes, and in this state, they would endure unfavorable weather conditions. It's nothing short of miraculous. But they were also called reptiles because the tribe worshipped a figure of a lizard standing on its hind legs. And this lizard very much resembled a tyrannosaurus in appearance. I came across mentions on the internet that monk had spikes growing from his back, which shamans would file down after a special ritual. However, no specifics were provided. I suggest we leave such tales to the conscience of those who create them and return to César Gemin. Upon returning to France, the scientist published a report on the outcomes of the journey and began preparing a new expedition to the same region of the Congo. However, fate had other plans. The malaria that the scientist contracted during the expedition turned out to be much more dangerous than he thought. 6 months later, the traveler passed away, and one of the countless civil wars broke out in the Congo. Under these conditions, as you can understand, any research was out of the question. When the fighting subsided, it turned out that the tribe of reptile people had disappeared. It was never found. It is believed that these 40 people ended up in the combat zone and perished. But who knows, maybe someday, when all the wars on the war-torn land of Congo have ceased, it will be possible again to discover people who are capable of lowering their body temperature. Do you know what the phrase hand for rubber meant to the people of Congo? I learned about this quite recently, and at first, I couldn't believe that such a thing was even possible. However, for those who lived in Congo at the end of the 19th century, it was a harsh reality. It all started when in 1885, the Belgian King Leopold II declared the country his private property. To the world, he spoke of the prosperity of Little Africa, while he created hell within it. The curse of Congo became ordinary rubber. The local inhabitants were forced to work like slaves. At first, 40 hours without pay, then eventually just for the chance to live, to breathe. And for failing to meet quotas, guess what awaited them? Execution? No, bullets were conserved. Instead of bullets, axes were used, and people's hands were cut off. Severed hands became a kind of currency. High Commissioner Karl Lemmer wrote, "If you want rubber, cut off hands, noses, and ears." Horrifying? Very much so for me. Reading the officers' reports, it's hard to contain the anger. Here's an entry from 1895. The soldiers returned with 11 heads, burned the village. Karl was killed for fun, and the population of the Congo decreased by 15% over 40 years. hunger, murder, and disease took their toll. The money obtained from the sale of rubber was invested in the construction of railways, parks, and new urban districts throughout Belgium. The country grew rich and prospered. At whose expense and at what cost did not concern the Belgians. Contemporaries called Leopold II the Builder King. Leopold had a peculiar sense of humor. It was claimed that he spoke out against the cutting off of hands. "Hands are the only valuable thing in the Congo," he said, "and it would be better to cut off something else." One might wonder, how could the world turn a blind eye to this? But Leopold deceived the public with lies, calling the brutality a defense against savages. The truth was only revealed by missionaries. In 1908, the king, fearing a scandal, gifted the Congo to the Belgian parliament, but true independence only came in 1960. A few years ago in Belgium, demands began to arise to remove monuments to the colonizer and oppressor Leopold. And, while initially the authorities managed to suppress these scandals, in 2020, after the American campaign for black rights, the authorities gave in and began dismantling the monuments to the king builder. However, pygmies and reptiles are just one of the mysteries of the Congo. Did you know, for example, that in the heart of the Congo, according to local tribes, terrifying creatures resembling dinosaurs still roam? Personally, I had no idea about them until I started preparing this video. One of the legends that struck me was the legend of a mysterious inhabitant of the swampy areas in the Congo. This is the legendary Mokombembe, which means the one who stops the rivers. Imagine a long neck, a body larger than an elephant, and a roar so terrifying that it literally makes your blood run cold. In the journal Science Film. The 1980s, in the article Living Dinosaurs, eyewitnesses described its smooth skin and footprints the size of a frying pan. The local tribes are well acquainted with this creature. It is often mentioned in folklore and legends. Despite its not-so-great reputation, the creature is considered to be a vegetarian. They supposedly fed on nut-like fruits of coastal plants and preferred to settle in deep bodies of water and underground caves. As early as 1909, the German hunter Carl Hagebeck, in his autobiographical book Beasts and Men, included stories from natives about a half-dragon, half-elephant creature. Hagebeck shared his observations with his traveler friend Joseph Menges. He stated that he personally believed it was some kind of dinosaur, similar to a brontosaurus. The German adventurer, filmmaker, and big game hunter Hans Skomberg recounted that the locals blamed Mokombembe for killing all the hippos in a place called Lake Banyulu. German Captain Ludwig Losnitz wrote about the creature as follows. It is believed that canoes approaching it are doomed to destruction. The animal immediately attacks the vessels and kills the crews, but does not eat the bodies. The creature lives in caves and comes ashore during the day in search of food. On the Sambo River, I was shown a path that is said to have been made by this animal to obtain food. The path was fresh, but since there were too many tracks of elephants, hippos, and other large mammals, it was impossible to confidently identify any specific track. Rumors about the incredible beast stirred the minds of scientists. Research was even funded by such esteemed institutions as the Smithsonian Institution. The famous cryptozoologist Ivan Sanderson came across large tracks in this area in 1932. He also observed something very large disappearing into the water. Soon, rumors spread from Lake Tella that the natives had indeed killed one of these creatures. According to legend, the natives dragged 2 dead animals to the village, cooked them, and ate them as part of a meal. And they would have been better off not doing so. Everyone who tasted the meat of this unknown beast became seriously ill and soon died. Over time, the rumors about the mysterious dinosaur did not die down. In the 1980s, Roy Mackel's expedition came across broken branches and tracks in the jungle, as if something massive had made its way through the thicket. Later, they managed to record someone's frightening growl on tape. However, the expedition did not bring back any other evidence. I'm really curious, what did those people actually see? Could it really be a gigantic dinosaur from Conan Doyle's Unknown World? What do you think? But that's not the only unsolved mystery of the Congo. Have you heard of Emeltuki, the elephant killer? No? Local tribes describe it as an armored beast with a horn, capable of defeating an elephant. It somewhat resembles a tank, but besides the horn, it also has a powerful tail like a club. With it, it can inflict serious injuries on its enemies. I wouldn't want to encounter such a creature during a walk in the forest. And probably neither would you. Right. Like the Mokombembe. This armored beast is said to inhabit the water. According to legends, Emelantuka is a vegetarian. But it has quite a temper. As soon as it senses danger, the surroundings are filled with a wild roar. Try approaching this killing machine, even if you're a rhino, buffalo, or elephant. A certain Joseph Hughes, in 1933, in his book 18 Years on Lake Bangweulu, wrote about one of the Emelantuka being killed by natives. Other travelers echoed his account. 20 years later, an article by former Game Inspector Lucien Blanco appeared in the journal Mammalia. In it, he noted, "It is known about the presence of a beast that sometimes disembowels elephants, but it seems it is not widespread there now. It was assumed that one specimen was killed 20 years ago in Dono, but in fact, it is located to the left of the Obani River and in the Belgian Congo." In the 1980s, Dr. Roy Mackal went to the Congo to search for the much-talked-about Mokal, and in the book A Living Dinosaur, he shares stories about Emil and Tuka. Mackal himself was convinced that this creature was nothing other than a miraculously surviving relic Centrosaurus, which had a large horn. Others believed that this creature was not a dinosaur at all, but rather resembled a new species of semi-aquatic rhinoceros. However, verifying such guesses is quite difficult even today. The area from which these rumors originate is incredibly isolated, making it hard to reach, let alone conduct systematic scientific research. I don't know about you, but personally, this fact is quite disappointing to me. For now, we have to settle on the idea that Emelantuka apparently resembles other creatures that are mistaken for dinosaurs. Take, for example, a strong small predator in armor made of bone plates, which, according to legends, lives in the jungles of Kenya and is called the Muhuru. They are called JB Fofi, and they are giant spiders with a leg span of 4 to 6 feet and the size of a dog. I am not among those with arachnophobia, but even I felt uneasy imagining this creature crawling out from under a tree. In 1938, the Lloyds narrowly avoided an encounter with one of them. At first, they mistook the strange thing for a monkey. Imagine their surprise when a spider with 5-foot legs dashed in front of their truck. Margaret Lloyd reportedly demanded to return home immediately. And I completely understand her fear. Scientists, however, received their stories with skepticism, yet native tribes describe the eggs, coloration, and even the hunting habits of these monsters. What do you think such a monster is capable of? Locals claim that they hunt birds, small antelopes, and even monkeys, using a web trap between trees. And their venom, if the stories are to be believed, is so potent that it kills a person within minutes. So how should we regard such stories? Even more terrifying cases are reported. How about the story of missionary Arthur Symes and his porters? According to the information that reached us, they got entangled in an impenetrable web near Lake Nyasa. Soon, 2 giant spiders attacked the people, and they died from the bites. The unfortunate ones didn't even have time to draw their revolvers. The stories of naturalist William Gibbons are also intriguing. Based on the words of the natives, he claimed that the spiders lay eggs the size of peanuts in whole clusters. The newly hatched spiders are bright yellow with a purple abdomen. As they mature, they turn dark brown. The local tribes describe them quite seriously, as part of the ecosystem, without any mysticism. Imagine, Najabansa managed to find evidence of giant spider activity in the jungles of Africa. Quite recently, according to him, just 25 years ago, he heard from the chief of the Baka tribe that a JBA Fofi had made a nest near the village. Unfortunately, the scientist acknowledges that there are fewer and fewer rumors about the spiders. From this, he concludes that the insects, if they exist, are gradually dying out or migrating to places where there are no people. By the way, here's a paradox. Despite all the information gathered by the same Gibbons, science does not acknowledge their existence. Jiba, Thofi. But why is that? Here's the thing. It turns out it all comes down to physiology. First of all, it's about breathing. Spiders breathe through book lungs or tracheae, which are inefficient for large creatures. During the time of the dinosaurs, there was more oxygen, but even then, giants the size of a dog were not found. Today, the largest spider is the Goliath bird eater, measuring 11 inches and weighing 6 ounces. The giant huntsman spider also reaches a decent size with its leg span. 12 inches. That's certainly decent, but it doesn't quite match the tails of a gibbofofi. Compare for yourself, 5 feet and 12 inches. Yes, it's like Gulliver and the Lilliputians, right? Secondly, the exoskeleton. Its weight increases faster than the strength of the muscles. Imagine a spider crab with 12-foot legs, but it lives in water, and the water supports its weight. And a land coconut crab at 3 feet with its 9-pound weight barely crawls. So how could a 6-foot spider chase after prey? Be honest, do you have doubts too? I do. But the jungles of the Congo are barely explored. Gorillas and okapi were once considered myths. Who knows, maybe JBA is next on that list? Or are the sizes of the spiders exaggerated, and the stories born from fear of the unknown? I think it's necessary to maintain a healthy skepticism, but not completely dismiss the evidence. Do you remember the slogan? The truth is out there. Agree, if such creatures are real, their habitat is impenetrable thickets where even taking out a camera is difficult. In the meantime, maybe for the next expedition, we should bring more repellent? Please write in the comments whether science should actively search for the gibbofofi? Or is it a waste of resources? Personally, when walking in the forest, I'll be more careful and watch my step. What if the bushes start moving strangely? But enough about mythical monsters. In the Congo, there is enough that can kill a person without even realizing it. I'm talking about a volcano right now. Did you know that at the foot of Africa's most active volcano lies a danger capable of surpassing even its eruption in destructive power? I recently read about Mount Nyiragongo and learned that Lake Kivu is nearby. A true powder keg of our planet. And I couldn't resist sharing this with you. Imagine, at the bottom of this lake, 72 cubic miles of carbon dioxide and 37 cubic miles of methane are hidden. To give you a better sense of scale, that's 120,000 times the volume of an Olympic swimming pool. If this explosive mixture were to surface, the consequences would be monstrous. In May 2021, the eruption of Nyiragongo claimed the lives of dozens of people, destroyed villages, and forced the evacuation of 450,000 people. But friends, that's just part of the story. It seemed that the authorities had dealt with the problem, but the greatest threat of Lake Kivu remains. Scientists call this a limnological disaster, and frankly, the release of such a volume of gas would negate all of humanity's efforts against global warming. Scientists have not reached a consensus on how to safely remove the gases, as there are only 4 such lakes on Earth, and researchers simply lack sufficient data. But there is hope. Canadian engineer Philippe Morkel is confident that if 90% of the methane is extracted over 50 years, the risk of disaster will be reduced by 90%. However, this is just a theory. In the meantime, scientists check the lake weekly. Unfortunately, since 1975, gas reserves have increased by 15%. There is less and less time left for deliberation. Do you think humanity is capable of taming this ticking gas bomb? Or will we once again find ourselves powerless against nature? Be sure to write your answers in the comments. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed my story about one of the countries of the Black Continent, and that you learned something you had no idea about before. By the way, write in the comments what scared you the most. The story of human greed and severed hands, the mysterious legendary descendants of dinosaurs, or the mystery of the reptilian people. Or perhaps the lake ready to spew tons of carbon dioxide into Earth's atmosphere? If this video made you think, give it a like. If it scared you, share. Some mysteries are too dangerous to keep to yourself. And in conclusion of this video, I'll just repeat the phrase that once became famous: the truth is out there. Remember that?